JP, the president of Save Standard Time, will join me in a few minutes. But first up, we are delighted to be joined again by Dr. Jonas Ladapo, Surgeon General from the state of Florida, professor of medicine at University of Florida. And we are going to be joined, the three of us will be Scott Jensen, Joe Ladapo, and myself. Scott, of course, a family physician, former Minnesota state senator, currently candidate for Minnesota governor. And we're going to talk about medical freedom and our absolute astonishment at what is happening to our profession and what the range of the problems are and what can be done. Three physicians, essentially two different generations of physicians, all looking at the same phenomena going, this is a big problem. Something is not right at all. Back with Dr. Ladapo and Dr. Jensen after this.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Paleo Valley is always innovating, bringing you new products to market, of course, using doctor.com/Paleo Valley. You will get 15% off your first order and 20% off when you subscribe. And of course, one of the first things I promoted and consumed quite a bit of when the company joined our family of sponsors was the grass-fed and finished beef sticks. And that remains a fan favorite and a personal favorite as well, particularly the classic and the summer sausage. These delicious, chewy sticks have higher levels of omega-3 fatty acid than conventional beef. They're naturally fermented and contain 0 grams of sugar, 0 artificial preservatives, 0 gluten, 0 soy or corn. I eat them sometimes before a show or after show, between meal breaks. Certainly when I travel, I bring them everywhere. Use it before a workout so I don't get super hungry. All the protein stick varieties are superior to your typical jerky. Paleo Valley is a wonderful small business that promotes healthful eating and supports this show. Get 15% off your first order with drdo.com/Paleo Valley. All right, Dr. Joe Ladapo, Surgeon General for the state of Florida. You can follow him on X, FL Surgeon Gen. Dr. Scott Jensen is a physician and candidate for governor in the great state of Minnesota. His X handle is DR Scott Jensen, Jensen, and drscottjensen.com. Gentlemen, I got Dr. Ladapo first. Dr. Ladapo, welcome back. Good to see you. Talk to me for a minute. There's Dr. Jensen. I'm going to put Scott on the driver's seat first, Joe, just to frame the moment here. Like, how did the three of us get here today all of a sudden?
Well, Dr. Drew and Dr. Ladapo, I think it's easy to say this. None of us could have anticipated what happened over the last 5 years. And I think as these things unfolded, we found ourselves on the hot seat. But fast forward to where we're at today, we're seeing downstream effects that we made warnings about. We said, if you do this wrong, there will be consequences. And what we're seeing today is incredible amount of courage necessary from Dr. Ladapo to help lead Florida away from mandates and to a recognition that we all get to control what happens to our body. But the concept of informed consent has been absolutely corrupted. And now we need to revisit that issue because, quite frankly, patients are being denied informed consent in ways that we could never have guessed. They don't even realize it's happening, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But the downstream effects of what happened 5 years ago are what we're dealing with today, and they may be far more problematic than anybody could ever have guessed.
We'll talk about what some of those might be in a second. Dr. Ladapo, I'm going to have you pick it up right there.
Yeah, well, I'll say that I agree with Dr. Jensen that I never would have imagined 5 years ago, we'd be where we are now. And, but 5 years ago, I was first learning about Dr. Jensen. And, there were not many truth sayers back then who had MDs. And, there was this doctor out in Minnesota. I'd see these Facebook videos, and he was talking about, fear and early treatment and, and not living in fear, not doing these lockdowns, retaining your humanity. And I was like, man, I love this guy. I love this guy. And I think we eventually kind of got tangentially connected through some other people. But oh man, I mean, it's like the guys and the gals who were there from the beginning. There aren't that many of them, and Dr. Jensen was one of them. So it's it's a treat for me to be chatting here with you and him and all the great work you've been doing, Dr. Drew.
But Joe, you really picked up the ball and had to do the hard work of policy and the courage. And I know that, it's interesting. As throughout the course of these last 5 years, the word courage has been across my lips several times. And the interesting thing one of the many interesting things, first of all, I didn't expect to use that word in my 7th decade of life. Like I thought that's something 20-year-olds talked about, but okay. But secondly, when you have clarity, both medically and morally, it doesn't feel like courage. It feels like common sense. It feels like something you have to do. And so when I saw you do that, I thought, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah, well, thank you for the kind words. And boy, we could use more clarity. Again, something I appreciate about Dr. Jensen and you, Dr. Drew. There's not a lot of clarity out there. I mean, we're here 5 years out, and you still, you look. The CDC has published data that shows that the uptake of the latest COVID-19 vaccine is something like 10%. It's somewhere around 10% among healthcare workers. Like 1 in 10 of our colleagues approximately are taking this vaccine. And yet, if you looked on the TV stations, you would think, these doctors that come and get interviewed, like in MSNBC, there's one guy who really likes me on MSNBC. He's a pulmonologist. He really likes me a lot. You look at these, you think all doctors are taking it. And it's just like, what is going on, So not a lot of clarity there, but definitely a lot of subterfuge and a lot of misdirection. And frankly, I don't know if they're ignorant or they're just lying.
And to that point, Scott, are you still seeing patients right now? Because
4 days a week.
Okay, so I'm still seeing patients too, and so it's fair. And most of them are elderly. I follow these people for 20 years. A general medical practice. I like taking care of very, very sick people, so that's who gets sick is the elderly. And many of them ask me, should I take the COVID vaccine? Right, and many of them have had multiple boosters. Many of them have had COVID. Many of them have abandoned the boosters, though some have continued very diligently. And they ask me for my opinion. In other words, they come to me and go, how should I think about this vaccine? What should inform me? Give me an informed consent. Even though I'm not going to administer the vaccine, I don't want to get in the way of them getting it if that's something they want. And I want them to be informed. And what I tell them is I can't. Because I don't have the information necessary to tell you something definitive about this vaccine. All I can say is, well, your risk of COVID is substantial, but you've had COVID, so you're kind of covered. You've had the boosters, you're sort of covered. We have Paxlovid, we have all these other COVID treatments now, so I'm not worried about you getting sick. So I don't know what benefit we're going to get. We no longer anticipate hospitalization. That doesn't happen anymore. And the vaccine doesn't seem to contribute to that. It doesn't contribute to whether or not you get the vaccine, get the illness, doesn't contribute to whether or not you transmit the illness. And the variant that it's directed at is no longer in this community. So I don't know how to inform you. How does that sound, Scott? About right?
I think that's exactly right. And I think there's a couple of things that I add to that, but I always comment on the fact that the variant has already shifted from 5 months ago. We're seeing that. I think we've gone away from the nimbus. And I also tell people, whatever you decide, I want you to know I'll be at your side. I'm not going to kick you out of my practice. I'm glad to be involved in your care. And then the other piece I tell them is, I'm afraid that informed consent has been corrupted if people give you advice and don't tell you that there might be some kind of monetary reward. And that's been one of the things that I think has really been problematic is informed consent has, two relatively simple words. One is patient has to be informed. Two, the patient has to provide voluntary consent. But what happens if the person that the patient is talking with has secondary gain that's not on the table? And I think that we've demonstrated over and over again that insurance companies and even governmental entitlement programs have provided these kinds of financial incentives. And I don't think patients are being told that. And so to me, patients really aren't getting informed consent at that point.
Joe, you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, we are so far away from informed consent. They're getting the consent part, but we're not getting the informed part.
Right.
And
that's right.
we're so. I mean, I don't think most people don't even recognize how far away we are from the informed consent part. Yeah. When you're talking about, it's actually true for pretty much all vaccines. In some ways, there's at least more information about the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. But, even influenza, which has been, much better studied. I mean, basically, in terms of where you actually see benefit, you look at the Cochrane reviews and the highest quality evidence, it's primarily in older people with comorbidities and, potentially with pregnant women. And that's mostly it. I mean, there's really no substantial, meaningful clinical benefit in children, and yet in healthy children, and yet that's the recommendation here in this country. And of course, there's the occasional study.
My 9-month-old granddaughter was recommended. Recommended my 9-month-old granddaughter, and my son goes, "Do I do it? What do you think about the flu shot?" I said, "Well, it's the right time of year to get the vaccine, but I don't understand why she would take it. I don't get it. I don't know."
It's just,
I had a patient.
Mom's pregnant. Maybe the mom is pregnant. There is maybe a reason. Her mom is pregnant, so maybe that's a reason enough by itself. I don't know.
I had a patient in today, doctors, that just oddly enough said, "Doc, do you remember the swine flu vaccine program?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely, 1976. I was in dental school that year." And I remember that program being suspended within maybe a month or so of it being released. I think there were a couple hundred cases of Guillain-Barré. There were something like 50 deaths reported, and that stopped it cold. And yet you look at what happened to us the last 5 years. That's why I'm so grateful to you, Dr. Ladapo, for what Dr. Drew referred to as your policy work. Because if at the end of the day, physicians are doing a poor job of providing informed consent, which I would submit that they are, you're sort of providing this big safety net that's available to people by saying, listen, you get to choose. You will not have a mandate put on you whereby you can't have your job or you can't travel. We are going to take those mandates away so that at the end of the day, you know that you have an exemption based on conscientious exemption, religious exemption, medical exemption. The fact is, we're not having mandates. At that point in time, I think, once again, patients are in the driver's seat, and they so appreciate that. But you have led the way, Joe, and there's an awful lot of states that aren't even willing to watch what you're doing, and we all should be watching what you're doing.
Thank you for the kind words. I mean, I'm grateful for everyone's support, and definitely for Governor DeSantis, because there just aren't many governors that that are willing to just do what is right. They're not worried about the polls. They're not checking the direction of the wind. I hope you become a governor in Minnesota, Dr. Jensen, because I know you'd be one of those same types of governors who, are ethical and will put the interests of the population, of the people, before anything else. Joe,
Joe,
just aren't many people like that in politics.
About philosophy, what do you imagine? This is what I want both of you to talk to me about. Scott, I'll give you a second right after Scott, Joe rings in, which is, what happened? What happened to us? How could we want to mandate our patients? If they don't listen to our recommendations, we're going to force and coerce, and it's the most unthinkable ethical transgression imaginable for my generation. I know for Scott's generation, and I would imagine for yours too. What happened here? And then, if given how severely out of line things are, and I would posit that it's the public health policy posture that got out of hand, the centralization in the name of public health got completely corrupted. But that's my opinion. And then that there should be any outraged for you saying it's your body, yourself, you make your decisions. That should be like communist China does not have that kind of a mandate. Why is it outrageous for Florida to follow suit?
Yeah, but we didn't know that then.
I knew
we were
something.
like, oh, everybody, China was saying, oh, mask up, everybody mask up. Oh, people are dying in the street. We're going to spray the streets. And
I knew something was out of line. But Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, we are so far off. And, you know, and I mean, if you look at parents, there are definitely some parents who, you know, they're down with mandates. They want, they want mandates. But there are a lot of parents, like there's a sizable proportion of parents that don't like mandates. They want to be the ones to make the decision about what goes in their kids' bodies, because that just makes sense. They're your kids. So you look at that, and then you look at where the doctors are, who at least are on television, and it's just like, it's like on TV, it's just the creation of this alternate reality and this alternate universe of ideas and beliefs, and there's just a complete mismatch. It reminds me of, frankly, how, you know, if all you did was watch TV before the 2016 election, you would think that, you know, Hillary Clinton was going to absolutely win, and, you know, the whole country. But if you were a person who was talking to other people and listening to Americans, you would see that that was not clear that that would happen at all. And of course it didn't. So we just have the same thing happening here, where just the intelligentsia of our profession and the regular people are just so far apart.
I remember, Dr.
Scott, your opinion?
Yeah, I remember early in the pandemic, probably 2021, I remember I did a video and went to bat for Governor DeSantis in Florida, because I think 60 Minutes had done sort of a hit piece on him, accusing him of distributing vaccines in a preferential manner. And both Democrats and Republicans in Florida knew that was not true. And 60 Minutes went ahead and did this hit piece. I came out and criticized 60 Minutes. And I remember that night I was kicked off of TikTok, and my 300,000 followers just in a moment were gone. But getting that 30,000 foot view is where we're at right now, is I'm an optimist, and I see a better tomorrow. I think that there's a paradigm shift that's occurred, and it has two things associated with it. One is there's an awareness that big pharma cannot help itself. It doesn't matter if they're making injectable drugs, vaccines, oral medications, cancer drugs, doesn't matter. Big pharma can't help themselves. They're going to be driven by profit. But I think the epiphany for so many people is the physicians. I think people are recognizing now that physicians get stuck. And the notion that Dr. Drew and Dr. Ladapo and myself could actually be correct, and that they could need to step back and revisit what they're thinking, it was too much for so many physicians. They said, there's a certain rigidity. And I think within that rigidity, we saw all kinds of downstream effects take place. For one, a patient would come to the doctor's office and have a legitimate question, and the doctor would literally snap at them and kick them out of their practice for not complying with what the doctor wanted. It all of a sudden became very aware, I think, for a lot of patients, that physicians weren't who patients thought they were. And I think this is going to be a good thing down the road, because I think patients are going to be a little more skeptical in a healthy way. And they're going to say, doctor, I appreciate that input, but I'm going to do some research on my own. I might get a second opinion, but I really appreciate you. Boom. Physicians are going to have to grow up and recognize that they cannot be rigid, that it's not about the physician, it's about the patient. And that's the beginning. True informed consent, when we recognize it's not about the physician, it's about the patient, it's about the physician advocating for the patient, and over time, the physician earns the trust of the patient, but we don't get it automatically.
I love what you're saying. I love what you're saying, Dr. Jensen. We've just gotten so far away from that. I can't remember who was speaking, but they were sharing this concern about how so many physicians are employed. And technically, I'm employed. You know, I've always been a faculty member, so I've always been employed by a university. But it's actually a really bad model for healthcare, for physicians in general, because instead of being these champions of patients, which we are capable of being, like we are, you look at Dr. Mary Bowden, talk about a champion of a patient. This patient wanted ivermectin, however people feel about it. She fought for the patient. She, sent her nurse there to administer it. She worked powerfully in service of the patient. And, and she got in trouble with the Board of Medicine for it. But my gosh, how wonderful is it to see a physician standing up, fighting for their patient. Like that's what, I gotta believe that's what drew so many people for decades to the practice of medicine. And that's gone now.
My.
I mean, people just fight for, like quality metrics and the schedule and income, but fighting for your patient, there just aren't many doctors that still do that.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, our job in primary care is ombudsman. That's our first job, navigating the system, picking the right consultants, making the calls. Scott, go ahead.
I was going to say, Dr. Mary Telly Bowden has truly been a trailblazing hero for so many people. And I think what people may not know about her is she put it all on the line. And there was nothing in it for her, not a thing. She just felt that that was what she was called to do as a part of her Hippocratic oath. I mean, and there have been, I think of Dr. Peter McCullen, I think of so many champions, but Mary Telly Bowden has a special spot in my heart because she was so alone. And she literally had to go against these juggernaut forces in her life. And God bless her forever.
Yeah.
Scott, you mentioned the downstream effects. And when you mentioned that, the first thing that jumped into my head was what we did to sort of 8 to 15-year-old citizens of this country, the people that we're supposed to protect. Years of productive life lost, years of health lost, years of education lost, a profound impact on their emotional health and development, which was so predictable. We were all saying the lockdowns, I kept saying from the beginning of lockdown, you're going to destroy 8 to 15-year-olds. And Joe, you may not be seeing this as much in Florida because you didn't do 2 years of lockdown like we did in Florida. But here, the depression, anxiety, the listlessness, lack of meaning making, inability to form good relationships, it's just off the chain right now. And every time I see sort of data in that direction, particularly for the young males, I just think they're not measuring the impact of lockdown because that certainly was a big part of all this.
I was on the school board for 10 years in Waconia, and then I was on the higher education committee when I was in the Senate. And this particular aspect of the last 5 years just makes me sad because I think that there's a delusion that people suffer from. And the delusion is that it'll be okay, that they'll bounce back, that they get a mulligan, they get a do-over. There is no do-over.
That's right.
This group of people, as they proceed through life, we will see downstream effects that will be crippling. And this is on us.
Yeah, and to reinforce again what you were saying is that we used to think to some extent that I'm sure doctors at one time would have support that position that there's a resiliency, they'll come back. But now we know as you move through development, which is from 0 to 25, frankly, as you move through these periods of development, there are windows that open and close. That's why they're windows. They go up and they close. And once they're closed, it makes the development sometimes impossible, and certainly that much more difficult. But you're not so much in Florida, I'm imagining, because you didn't do the dumb thing that we did here in California without thinking about, again, the informed consent. The other thing that wasn't considered in any of this was the risk reward. That's the other thing that got washed out of medicine. There was informed consent and risk reward, and we let them both go during COVID. And Francis Collins has said it publicly that he did not think of risk reward at any point during his recommendations that destroyed so many people. I'll give Joe a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Dr. Collins was, after he declared a war on Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and Dr. Martin Kulldorff and those other rogue epidemiologists.
Devastating takedown. Devastating
takedown. My goodness. Woo. And the resiliency thing kills me because resilient doesn't mean it doesn't hurt you. And they are resilient. The kids, they are resilient. But that doesn't mean they weren't harmed. It doesn't mean they weren't, they didn't suffer. And that's what the data show. And you're absolutely right, Dr. Drew, because in Florida, with the educational markers, much better. I mean, Florida did much better than just about every other state. And this was shown. There's a center at Harvard that focuses on education policy, and that was demonstrated, shortly after, all the states started coming out of the lockdowns. Their first study is probably like 2 years ago, and they've updated it a few times. Much better. It made a huge difference, and it makes a difference for the trajectory of people's lives. It's really terrible, the impact. And just because, again, people are still smiling and doing the best doesn't mean they weren't harmed, So you can be resilient and still be harmed. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
So I got to take a little break here, but when we get back, Scott, I'll let you finish that thought. And also let's talk a little bit about what we worry about with what the mandates of the vaccines have done biologically. There's a lot of stuff flying around. I don't know quite what to make of it yet. I've not dedicated shows to it because I'm not sure what to make of things yet. I'm worried. I guess I have dedicated some shows. I talked to Jessica Rose at length about some of her biological observations in terms of the DNA, sort of left behind in some tumors from the vaccine for sure. But the magnitude of this and the resulting from a mandate that our profession participated in. We'll start with you, Scott, right after the break. Thank you, gentlemen. I've spent most of my career dealing with illnesses that shorten life, and now we have ways to extend it and extend wellness. I've been working with the team over at V-Shred to develop a product that has everything I want in a longevity supplement. NR Boost has nicotinamide riboside. Metal can rust. Well, your body behaves in a similar way. It's mediated through something called NAD. NAD falls as we age, so we're less able to fight off that oxidative process. We oxidize much like that metal. And NAD fights it, but nicotinamide riboside elevates NAD so we can push back on those oxidative stressors, improving health, improving longevity. The other product is Senosync, has fisetin, one of the key molecules to fight off zombie cells, and we've added resveratrol to that, which is a well-known anti-aging antioxidant again. I don't like supplements that have a ton of ingredients. To me, it suggests that none of it's working. When I prescribe a medication, I prescribe that medicine because I expect that to work. That is exactly what I've done with these products. And I want you to go to drdrew.com/vshredmd for 10% off. Again, that is drdrew.com/vshredmd. The wellness company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and being rationally ready, and who knows what the future will hold for us. Now TWC has a service to cover your family's medical needs, including and especially prevention. For just $100 a month, the One Wellness Elite membership includes 2 free medical-grade nutraceuticals per month, free prescriptions for over 800 of the most common medications, access to concierge telemedicine available at a moment's notice, and a 15% discount on all supplements and the emergency kits. 15% off the emergency kits. That's quite a saving. So if you're spending $100 or more on supplements and meds every month, this plan will already save you money. If you sign up for a year, you'll save $200. And when you use the link, drdrew.com/TWC, you'll get 10% off the first payment to the One Wellness Elite membership. Check out One Wellness at drdrew.com/TWC and get 10% off your first payment. drdrew.com/TWC. It's all there.
Hey, Dr. Drew here. I'm 67 years of age, and it sneaks up on you. But whenever anybody says I look younger than my age, I always assume it is the longevity supplements that I take and I make my family take. C15, fatty 15 is one of those supplements. Oxidation is the enemy of aging. And C15 improves metabolism of red cells, liver cells, cognition, and reduces cell membrane oxidation. It's one of the only ways I know of to do that. So you should be taking it. I take it. If you want to try it, go to drdrew.com/fatty15.
That's brilliant. And thank you, Drew. Who's Dr. Drew? Where is he? Dr. Drew. Dr. Drew.
Dr. Ladapo is at FL Surgeon General. Dr. Jensen is at Dr. Scott Jensen. And drscottjensen.com is where you can find him as well. And before the break, Scott was about to make a comment, and I wanted him to talk more about speculate. Let's be fair. We're going to speculate about some of the biological downstream effects of what our profession participated in was these insane mandates. Dr. Jensen.
Well, I was just going to give an example, Dr. Drew, of what you'd said before about windows opening and closing. I think an easy example, I've got 7 grandchildren. They're all between 3 and 8. But if you look at what children learn at the age of 3 and 4 in terms of phonetics and how to make sounds and how other people are making sounds, and you just say, well, we're going to put masks on people and we're going to make kids go through this year or 2 of life without being able to see how to do that. What happens then is when they're 5 and 6 and they're starting to read, all of a sudden, they're not able to sound out words in the same way. Now it's a question of, can they memorize fast enough? It slows them down. But they're moving forward. There's no waiting for them. And like you say, developmental tasks are best met during certain intervals of life. And we are seeing that. In Minnesota, we used to have what was considered a high class public school system. We used to be top 5. Now, we're not even necessarily in the top half of America. We're not seeing our kids perform in reading or writing to grade level in 4th grade and 8th grade. We're seeing a plummeting. And this is absolutely new to Minnesotans. So what I fear is, one, the trend that we're seeing now is not going to go away because of wishful thinking. The second thing I fear is we did these vaccinations, this new technology of mRNA, and we did it without really being sure of how that injected substance is metabolized, degraded, and goes away. So we're seeing young people with deposition of spike protein, which is what the mRNA vaccine does, is it creates spike protein. Yep. So it's not just antibody related. We're seeing actual spike protein deposition in tissues of the body that we don't want to see spike protein deposit. I oftentimes will tell patients, let's check your antibody levels. Let's see if we can learn something there. But the last thing I fear is that because public health has done so poorly and because physicians have been so rigid, I fear that we may throw the baby out with the bathwater. mRNA technology does have value. It certainly doesn't seem to have a lot of value with vaccines, but does it have value in potential testing? Does it have value in terms of generating biologic product that might be life-saving? Does it have value in potentially treating cancers? All of these are things these are all possibilities, but quite frankly, this is on scientists, this is on researchers, this is on physicians, this is on public health. We have literally set ourselves back decades by our behavior during the last 5 years.
Yeah, and part of that is creating all this anxiety about the mRNA platform per se, as though it itself is evil. There's no good and bad things in biology. There are things that are destructive in certain settings and are useful in other, and that's that. They're not good because they're good or bad. They just have to be, like you say, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm really concerned about that too. I will say something a little stronger. There is no place for the mRNA platform in development of a vaccine for respiratory viruses. There is not a place for the mRNA vaccine, period. That's that, in my humble opinion. But we could discuss it, of course. That's part of science, right? But Scott, I know you have to go. You've got a heart out. I'm going to hold Joe back about 5 more minutes. But Dr. Jensen, do you have any closing comments you want to make?
Well, there's a verse in the Bible, Esther 4:14, that says, have you considered you're in the position you're in for such a time as this? And I think the 3 of us all could live by that, but so could so many more. And I'm grateful that our country's waking up. One of our biggest challenges in our country going forward, I think, is forgetfulness. We cannot forget what we went through. We locked kids out of school. We locked businesses down and told families that we weren't going to allow them to be able to take care of their children, take care of the bills. We locked elderly, frail people in nursing homes infested with active virus, and we made them live horrific lives at the end, and they died horrific deaths at the end, and they oftentimes were alone. That's on us. Those are motivations for us going forward, that we can never let this happen again. And Dr. Drew and Dr. Ladapo, thank you so much. It's so good to be with you.
Yeah.
You too, Scott. And if we can support your run and for governor, you count on at least us too, for sure. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So Joe, I'm holding you back for this because during that little commercial breaks, My wife Susan got up and was dancing around the room going, politics and medicine, politics and medicine. They don't mix. Can't go together. And then I thought to myself, oh, for sure that's true, but poor Joe has to figure out how to navigate both those worlds. So to that point, I'm wondering how you do that, except to just keep your physician sensibility, keep that rudder in the water and to let that, guide your decision making, I guess.
Yeah. I actually, I guess I have an advantage because I was always interested in policy. So even back in college, I actually remember doing track and field stuff because I was on the Wake Forest track and field team. But I was thinking about, what I'd be doing afterward, and would I go to graduate school, and would I even actually keep competing and all that stuff. But the other thought that sticks in my mind is just staying up late, scrolling through CNN, CNN, and just reading about different political issues and trying to understand why it was that people had different perspectives on the same issues, and even reading the Weekly Standard also. And just trying to just take in different perspectives and understand where people were coming from. So I actually like that aspect of policy.
Well, good, but now enlighten us.
Pardon?
Enlighten us. So what is? Where does that come from? That bias, those blind spots, the watching. We're all watching the same movie, but we're in fact watching two movies on one screen. How does Scott Adams says how do we bring those images closer together for people?
Well, I mean, I think I have some understanding, not a complete understanding of why we're in that place, but how to bridge it. That's a longer conversation that actually I would say would sort of stretches across literally spiritual, philosophical, like multiple domains. Because it is
anthropology, psychology.
Yeah, it is fascinating that people can not only, even though like for me, I understand, people have different positions, but I do feel like I often understand why someone might feel the way they feel, even though I may completely disagree with it. But most people, at least publicly, the people you hear about on TV or talking at TV shows or interviews, I don't get that same feeling. I feel like it's like, I'm right, they're wrong, and that's the end of the, that's where insight ends. We're not trying to understand why it is that they believe what they believe. And I actually find that extremely interesting. And frankly, I've benefited from it. Like, not only does it help you strengthen your position, if in fact your position is where you want to be after you understand where someone else is, but it's just so interesting. You get a better understand what people think and why they think that, why they feel that way. So I've fortunately have always kind of been inclined in that direction. And I'm also not scared or intimidated by people who have different ideas. Like, that doesn't bother me. People's ideas don't bother me. But when people do have different ideas, for a lot of people, it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I get that. And I would argue, I keep thinking that it might have something to do with our scientific training, because the one thing that it just drills into you is rational uncertainty, uncertain about everything, and understanding that the truth is never completely accessible. But we can use mechanisms to ascend to something as close to the truth as we can possibly get, hopefully, but constantly humble before that truth, as opposed to irrational certitude, which was on full display for many years. So I will let you wrap up with, I just, speculate what your, both concerns about what we may have done with this vaccine. I mean, I guess everybody knows what flies around. There's cancers going up, colon cancers in young men are going up. Could it be the vaccine? Are people's mental health? There's so many questions being asked about what the impact of all this, and very little sorting out of what was COVID and what was the vaccine, or what was both. I don't know anymore. What do you think we're seeing here? And then how is the removal of the mandates gone for you?
I do think we're seeing a lot of problems related to the mRNA COVID-19s. vaccines, a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And, you may have seen in the news recently, there was a paper published in the journal Nature where some researchers found what appears to be I would say a likely benefit of those vaccines in some patients with cancer who are receiving immunotherapy. So that was recently got a lot of attention, at least in the medical news and other related scientific news outlets. And so that seems to be something that needs to be fleshed out more. And you guys were just talking about the fact that the goal may not be to throw it out entirely. The goal may be just to avoid using it, frankly, in healthy people and for the prevention of infections. I mean, it just so far the data do not support. The data just don't support a dynamic where the benefits are by any measure outweighing the risks in healthy people. So so I do think we're seeing a lot of problems there. And then in terms of ending these immoral, unethical mandates, we're working on it. We're still working on it here in Florida. We're pulling out some from the Department of Health. We're working with our lawmakers. If there are Floridians watching now, we need your help. Please, share your perspectives with your representatives, with your people, because it's important that leaders here understand that, particularly on the Republican side, but a lot of Democrats too, they do not support mandates. They're not ethical instruments. And parents should have the right to make these decisions without coercion. And a mandate is coercion.
Yes.
So it's going to be, we're fighting for it because we think it's an ethical policy and it's in the best interests of our people here in Florida. And we're going to keep doing that.
And so where do you want people to go, Joe, to support you in this cause?
They can check out our Twitter. They can go to the Department of Health website. And they can support all the other, brave physicians out there like you, like Dr. Peter McCullough, like Dr. Jensen, like Dr. Simone Gold, like Dr. Stella Emanuel, so many brave physicians out there. And of course, the leadership of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and President Trump during this time, like they need our support. You can keep the criticism going. I definitely am not one of those people that think that, you shouldn't say you don't like something when you don't like it. But at the same time, when they do great things, man, let's rally, because there's a lot to celebrate too.
Joe, always a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Dr. Drew.
And if there was, ever something to defend, it is your bodily autonomy and your autonomy to make decisions on behalf of your children and to be defended from the state. Is that true? No, we did that. Trust me, we're all done. Susan thinks it was a taped piece. You've got to pay attention here. I mean, I know, I did too. I'm sorry.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of texting going on. We tried to get you. So we are going to switch gears a little bit. Somebody put something in the restream that caught my attention that I wanted to read it because it just kind of broke my heart. I actually responded to her. Let me see if I can find it. Looks like I'm not going to find it. Shoot. She was essentially saying that she worries that her children are going to die before she does because of the concerns about the vaccine. I thought, God, that is just horrible that people walk around this country have to feel that way. And I think that is an excess. I don't believe that will be true, but there are certainly people that are going to suffer because of things that they were forced to do against their will that did not drive any benefit necessarily for anybody.
One of the first people on the restream, Shanna, said that she lost her 17-year-old daughter to the vaccine.
Ooh,
and
terrible.
Our condolences go out to you.
Awful. So, JP, we're going to switch gears quite a bit here, and we are going to talk about Daylight Time and Standard Time. What is at issue here, and what Jay is worried about? You can follow Jay at Save Standard on X and also SaveTenderTime.com. Jay, tell me what is at issue, what you're concerned about. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me so much. I started this nonprofit Safe Standard Time when I noticed this push to retry permanent daylight saving time. It's a good idea to stop the clock change, but we want to make sure we keep standard time, the honest to God sundial time, not daylight time, the fast time, the wake up early in the dark time.
Is that for health reasons? Is that for international business reasons? Or all the above? What do we get out of that?
All of the above. With standard time, the clock is more honestly aligned to where the sun is positioned in the sky. So it's an objective, logical, fair way to set the time. When we're on daylight saving time, you spring your clock forward 1 hour, and that makes your alarm clock sound an hour earlier the next morning and every day afterward until you fall back to standard time where you belong. When we're waking up earlier, that means we're sleeping less long into the morning. Over the long term, this leads to a chronic loss in sleep quality and duration, and that can cascade into mental health problems, physical problems. There have been many studies in recent years. There was a study just a few months ago finding permanent standard time would be best for reduction of obesity and strokes, for example. Standard time can help with our safety driving on the roads, with our children's performance in school, our own performance in the workplace. And this is backed by history, by science, and really just first principles, basic logical thinking.
And who is it that's advocating the opposite for the daylight savings time to be the permanent, and why? What is their motivation?
So we had standard time for many decades, and it was working well. And then during World War I, lobbyists for department stores and for golf associations started to promote this idea of saving daylight. It was presented as a wartime rationing patriotic duty to get more labor out of the workforce and to save energy. It doesn't actually increase productivity, and it doesn't actually save energy. But their belief is that if you're forced to go to work an hour early, then you're going to leave work an hour early, and you're going to go shopping or you're going to go golfing. You're going to spend leisure money rather than getting enough sleep that night with standard time. So we always find the advocates for health and safety on the side of standard time, and for a few moneyed interests going for daylight saving time.
And how has the reception been for all this? I have a sort of a thought bubble over my head too. Is like, Jay, did you imagine when you were in high school this is what you'd be doing later in life? I mean, how did this happen to you? And then how's the reception been?
Well, I grew up in rural Iowa, and my great grandparents were farmers, and they taught me as a child to tell the time from where the sun is in the sky. And when I eventually started to realize what daylight saving time was, I was always complaining about it and saying, why are we lying about the time of day to get ourselves out of bed earlier? If you really want to wake up earlier, then we should choose to do so, not have the government mandated across the population. I also have a hobby in amateur astronomy, so I know that time is not a random number we pull out of the sky, but it's a calculated number that we pull out of the sky. And professionally, I've worked in software engineering, and I can say that daylight saving time is a mess for programming computers. It'd be a lot simpler if we stuck strictly to standard time.
Do other countries do that? Are we the only one, or one of a couple, or how does that work?
It started in Europe with World War I, Germany and Britain doing it, and then pretty much all of Western Europe and the United States and Canada following suit. Many other nations in South America and Asia have tried it and have gotten rid of it, but it still lingers here in the Western world, unfortunately. And that's a lot due to just confusion. People don't know why we're changing clocks. They don't remember why. A lot of people initially will guess that, well, I like summertime. Can we keep the summertime in the winter? But you can't just change winter into summer by changing the clock. Right. So, yeah. If you're noticing right now that you're waking, if you're noticing right now that you're waking in the dark with an alarm clock, that's probably due to daylight saving time. And if you had standard time in your state right now, like we do here in Arizona, I get to wake up when the sun is, just dawning over the horizon, and I can wake naturally without an alarm clock.
I lived in New England for a while, and one of the many things that astonished me was how dark it gets in the winter early, like at 4 in the afternoon. It is black, it's dark, pitch black. And, if you did something to the clock, it'd be It's very strange. I can't even imagine what it would be like. It's already strange enough.
Yeah, so the further north, the further away from the equator you're going to have more extreme times, a longer daylight in the summer and a much shorter daylight in the winter. And there's really no getting around that. The daylight saving time is really just stealing an hour from the morning and trying to stick it on the end of the day.
Yeah. So where do people go if they want to support you? And what are the roadblocks?
Well, so this can be solved either at the state level or the federal level in Congress. And unfortunately, that leads to a lot of finger pointing saying, well, talk to Congress, and Congress saying, talk to the states. But we really believe that the state solution is the best way to go about this. Now, state legislators will often be shy about saying, well, we can't go it alone. And on our website, safestandardtime.com, we do have model legislation showing how the effective date can be delayed to coordinate with surrounding states to make sure to build a regional pact. So please go to our website, our social media, send your state and federal legislators to our website and social media. We want to ditch DST and save standard time.
And then Caleb has a question about the technological aspects of some of this. Go ahead.
That's something I was wondering is if that's a big hurdle that's keeping people from, taking this on. Are all of the digital clocks that might have hard-coded programming that always adjusts for daylight savings time? Is that any sort of a hurdle to this mission?
And also the international piece of that too, right? There's international differences and how it's going to adjust for that. Go ahead.
To some degree, most computer systems rely on third-party libraries that they are interconnected, so you can get your clock software updated by someone else, and that gets disseminated to multiple apps. More likely, we'd want a lead time on any major changes. I mean, airlines are selling plane tickets 6 months, 9 months out. They don't want any sudden changes in scheduling. But we have seen a lot of progress this year. 7 state bills and resolutions made it halfway to the finish line this year. Last year was the first time we got one bill halfway to the finish line through one chamber of the state legislature. So we're getting closer to ditching DST, and the more support you can give to your state and federal lawmakers, the better we can get to that goal.
Well, Jay, I'll give you one last chance for a call to action, and then I'll say goodbye. Thank you for being here. Where do you want them to go?
SafeStandardTime.com, or on your favorite social media, look for Safe Standard.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Very interesting today. I could talk to Dr. Jensen and Dr. Ladapo all afternoon. They both had to go, and obviously the Surgeon General, I don't want to keep him excessive, long periods of time here. And Dr. Jensen had a heart out. But I do hope you'll follow those guys on X. And if you're interested in this, in Jay's quest to I like the story. I think that's the hook, is that he grew up on a farm, and the farm is all about light and seasons, and that this is an unnatural way for us to be relating to the movement of the sun across the horizon, across the sky. So good for him. Interesting. Coming up, can I talk about Thursday?
Yep.
Cheryl Hines going to come in studio with me. Aaron Siri tomorrow. Ryan Sickler may not make it, so
I'm
we're
going to make you
clear.
wear a Maha hat, though.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys are talking a bit, particularly on the Rumble rants, about my wound here. I had a big skin cancer removed. So go spend time in the sun, everybody. Guess what happens? And
Turn to the side so they can really see it.
This way.
Yeah. Well, a little all the way so the camera.
They can see it. Oh, here you go. You want a close up? Let me see. All right.
Can't really
there
see
it is.
Everybody's like, "What's on
Frankenstein?" Now, theoretically, this should get a lot better over the next couple of weeks, but now it's pretty nasty. And it's a bunch of stereo strips on top of it, so you can't see it. I'm not going to expose you to the full Frankenstein effect that would be in. Yeah, it could be put into. It's good. Halloween's coming up, so maybe I should go with Frankenstein. So
I said perfect time.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk about it. Wasn't much you were saying much on the restreams, but I noticed over on the rants.
They're like, I came in late. What the hell's on Drew's head?
No, the rants were saying that, but not over on the restream, which is funny. I see Caps Super Aid says, I didn't even notice it. Say, there you go. But the ranters are looking for reasons to rant, and they did.
The conversation was good, so they didn't have to pay attention to your face.
That's good. So let's put that list back up here again, because I am so grateful for Cheryl Hines to make the trip into our studio. That's crazy to me that she's willing to do that. And we'll see.
I hope so.
She said if the traffic is too bad, she might not. She doesn't have to. We're just happy that she was to be on the show. I've got a billion questions for her. Larry Elder coming in here. He is the guy that is credited with having turned Dave Rubin. And we'll tell you that story. Miss Pat's coming in. That's fun. That's a surprise. We didn't know she was coming.
Wait, who is that?
She's a comedian. She's great.
No, I can't remember who
Salty
that.
Cracker
is
coming in.
Is she an African American lady?
Yes, she's a black woman, and she is funny as hell. But I'm guessing she has something to promote, and that'd be interesting to get her.
Miss Pat.
Miss Pat is very, very funny. And check her out online or anywhere else.
How you can cross over from the Surgeon General of Florida to Miss Pat.
I love that. We're going to bring her. Listen, there's all kinds of interesting things out there, and I'm sure Miss Pat has something to say.
She has 8 children. Google says she has 8 children. We got to talk about that too.
Interesting.
She's got all her funny stuff just right there with those 8 kids.
I got to get a little tape for you guys. I'm going to do this. I'm mad at myself for not bringing it today. But did you all see the interview that Adam Carolla did with Gavin Newsom, where Newsom was saying that the biggest problem in Southern California is check cashing and these check cashing outlets? And Adam was like, why? He goes, well, black and brown people don't have access to ATMs or a bank. He goes, why? Why don't they? What's wrong? Why can't they get banking? What's the source of that? What are you saying that? Do Asian people have that problem? Do Armenians have that problem? And he was... I mean, his behavior, Newsom's behavior in that interview has been legendary for those people that have seen it out on X. See if any of you have seen that. I'm going to look on the restream and the rants. But he did a AI version of it where I'm going to bring 3 minutes in here, I promise. I hope he'll let me bring it. Where Adam is an NPR female reporter asking these questions, and Gavin Newsom is Burt Reynolds. And when you listen to Burt Reynolds' voice saying the things that Gavin Newsom is saying, and then a woman that sounds like she should be on NPR going, well, why? What are you doing? What are you saying? Why would you say that? The impact of that interview is so profoundly different in a good way. It's both hysterical and eye-opening how we allow our biases to be diluted by these politicians. It just is amazing. If you watch the Adam and Drew show next week, I think on Tuesday, yes, I think Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, check it out. You can get it on our website, Adam and Dr. Drew show. It's a half hour, it's a 30-minute podcast.
Where do you find that reenactment on Adam's thread? On the Adam Carolla show?
That's what I'm saying right now. No. We did it on the Adam and Dr. Drew show. It'll air next Tuesday. And we just did it today, but I think it goes up. I think it goes up next Tuesday. But do watch that podcast nevertheless. It's we open sort of our Monday podcast next week by saying people seem interested in this podcast now. Before we were just two old guys that are out of touch. Now all of a sudden, maybe they knew something. And it goes to very, very interesting places. But Caleb, isn't that an interesting idea?
Isn't that funny how that happens? Where it's like they just like push you aside for like 3 or 4 years. Then they're like, wait a second. Yeah. Hold on, maybe he was right about this. I think about that every time I see all these comments on TikTok. All the people, like probably about 80% of the comments we get on when we're live on TikTok are all negative people, just like quack, quack, quack. And I'm like, guys, just give it 2 years. You're obviously at the beginning. 2 years from now, you're going to sound very, very different, just like everybody else does.
And I think it was, did Dr. Jensen say, we have a forgetting problem? Did Dr. Jensen say it or Dr. Ladapo say it? But we cannot, Dr. Jensen said it, we cannot forget our own mistakes. We have to apologize for them, correct them, make amends for them, and adjust our priors. And if you forget that you were on TikTok, giving me a bunch of shit, and it turns out something we were saying today was correct, adjust, apologize, adjust. You don't have to apologize to me personally. Just in your head, apologize. And it will interrupt that irrational certitude that is running amok in our country right now. So rational uncertainty is the proper posture at all times. Let me just look quickly.
Casey Gates says I sound sick. Do I sound sick?
No, he was worried about you.
I'm coughing a little bit.
Your voice, is a little bit affected, I think.
I've been in and out of a hospital all week for...
What is the big green K on Restream? Can somebody explain that to me?
The big green K is comments coming from kick.com. You're also live there.
Kick.
You're on a lot of platforms.
Got it. Well, we appreciate all of you.
I don't know
Tell
what
a
that
friend.
means.
Was Dr. Drew going to
Thank you
show
for
the
enjoying
gruesome...
our stream, McCheese.
Greg McNeely, I am going to show it. I've got to get it. I have to get their permission and get it. So I should have done it. I should have thought about it. I sort of think of that's his thing, but I think he would like it actually if I played it, because it was this crazy idea he had that is, I'll give him proper due, which is a brilliant idea that he had. It was perfectly executed, and it will inform. It is just so informative to listen to it. If we're not these idiots and their skill at manipulating us that was at the other end, and it was just a different, I don't know how to even describe. I'm going to be thinking more about this, because I don't know how to describe what gets shifted when you see this thing. You'll think, oh my God, I get persuaded in ways that are so far from reality because of biases that are intrinsic. We have to be really careful about them. And the politicians take full advantage of those biases. So be careful. All right, everybody, we are in tomorrow at 4:00. Caleb, do you want to talk about the Maha panel?
Yeah, I'm now also co-producing the Maha Action Media Call every Wednesday, and that's why our show's at 4 p.m. Pacific on Wednesdays now. Not exactly 100% sure who's going to be there, but there's always a very interesting crew, somewhere between 10 to 12 people. A lot more guests than we get here, a lot more complicated. So please, nobody text me during that show tomorrow.
I told Tony you shouldn't do more than 4 or 5 guests.
How many guests do you have?
I'll say it again.
How many?
Excuse me.
All three I've done have had about between 11 and 12 speakers. It's pretty, you get a lot of good information. Everybody comes with information.
But I think
so
that's
it's a good
mistake though, Caleb. I think it's a mistake. I think you should do 5 every time. And so people will stay the whole way and get all the information. I react to something in this room after about an hour every time.
I know. Our housekeeper's had a stroke, so it's a little dusty. It's the way it's going to be. You get used to it.
All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 4:00. Thank you for being here. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. Emily Barsh is our content producer. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.